Hopefully this works. All right, hopefully everybody can hear me here. This is Luke with ISC. I haven't done a live stream in a little while here. Usually we do these on Facebook, but we're trying to grow our YouTube channel over time here, so figured no better time than right before a snowstorm to start a live stream on here. But obviously we have a lot to talk about, so I'll just get started here. We're going to kind of start with an overview, and this is our system that we're really watching for tomorrow that's going to bring us, our first significant snowfall of the year for many of us, except for the isolated locations that saw heavy snow from the lake effect event we had a few weeks ago. It seems like it was a long time ago, but it wasn't. But this is, if I can pick a better color, that might be nice. That's not what I want. I have this new screen brush tool here, so I'm not completely sure how to use it yet, but let's see. All right, show, change the color. No. All right, there we go. Red should show up a little better. All right, and I will be monitoring the comments too. So, if you have any questions or anything, I'll get to that at the end. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, how much they're going to get in their area, and I'll try to cover that as best I can. But yes, it has been a while since we've gone live. It's been, Joe used to go live quite a bit before snow events or severe events more often. And yeah, it's been a little while. So like I said, we're trying to grow our YouTube channel. So if you hit subscribe on YouTube, it's the same thing as following, which I'm sure most of you people know, but you will get notified on, your YouTube app or whatever you have on your phone or computer whenever we go live or post a new video. I've been posting quite a few forecast videos leading up to this event. The first one was almost a week ago now, where we discussed the potential for this. But of course, as we've gotten closer to it, confidence has increased, and now we're to the point where, it's a sure thing. It's going to happen. It already is snowing across parts of Iowa here. I'm kind of circling this. This is a infrared satellite imagery here, so it's dark out. Obviously, you can't, see visible satellite. So this, detects the how high up the clouds go in the atmosphere. If we had thunderstorms going on, the colors would go to red, and even, the whites. But basically, we have this whole winter storm here developing and organizing out of, the Colorado area, the Texas Panhandle here. Sometimes they're called, panhandle lows, and then they usually, develop in that area over there and swing towards us. And that's kind of what what is going to be happening here. If I switch to radar, you can already see, quite a large area of radar returns here. And it's been increasing over the last several hours into, since late afternoon. You can see all the way here in Texas, we have some thunderstorms going on here in north central, northeastern Texas, and then some more shower activity here in the middle. And then this is what we're really watching here, this area of snow that is starting to fall across Iowa right now. So you can see already some radar returns here in western Illinois. If you're watching from western Illinois, you're probably like, well, that's not true because it's not snowing yet, which you're right, it's not snowing yet, but we have a lot of dry air to work through before this snow can reach the ground. So I'm going to switch here to a different radar app, Radar Scope, if I can pull it up. There we go. Maybe. All right, come on now. There we go. Okay, so we'll look at this for a little bit here. So this is using the, our local KLOT radar for northern Illinois or the Chicago area. And what you see here is, these returns out west that are not really advancing eastward yet. I mean, it's still very early. We're not expecting snow to start until well after midnight for most of us. But, the radar beam is detecting these returns here. They're very high up. So if we see how high up this radar beam is, it's about 12 to 13,000 feet up in the air is where this radar beam is detecting this precipitation. So it is snowing, 10,000 plus feet up in the air, but with it being so dry, the dew point is in the upper teens across much of the state right now. It's going to take a few hours for that to saturate the profile and touch the ground. So if I switch to the Davenport radar here, you'll see that those returns that just showed up across western Illinois, they're not there because now we switched to the Davenport radar. It's a lot closer, but you can see further away from the radar, it's starting to pick some returns up all the way east over Rockford to the Illinois Valley area there. But of course, like I said, that's going to take many hours for this to saturate the column, as we call it, or the lower atmosphere, and actually fall as snow. We do have some snow already ongoing, though, across central Iowa. If I turn on these M-Ping reports, they're just little precipitation reports that anybody can submit from their app or whatever. I switched to Des Moines here. You can see a bit more of an impressive area of precipitation here, but you'll notice still right over the radar area, it's kind of it's starting to close in now a little bit, but that's like I said, that's just that snow saturating the lower atmosphere. It takes quite a while, but it is. I'm making sure the stream's still working. I think we're all right. And again, if anybody can't hear me or anything, let me know, please, because this is the first time I've done it. But yeah, we have this is the start of our storm, essentially. So, it's starting to get going across Iowa. We have a bunch of snow reports already. Cedar Rapids to Waterloo. It's pretty much just as expected, but it won't really get going into Illinois for another, 5 to 6 hours for far western Illinois. And it'll spread east through there through the early morning hours. So we are going to jump right in here. We're going to take a quick look at some brand new model data that just came out. This is the 0Z run of the HRRR. It's a high resolution model that updates every hour. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here so we can get the whole picture. So you see as the model begins or initializes here, you can already see that snow beginning to develop across Iowa that we were just looking at on radar. Some mixed precipitation in the middle and then some rain further south into Kansas and Oklahoma. So if we step through the next few hours here, I'm going to pause here right at midnight. That's when that snow will start to enter far western Illinois near the Iowa-Illinois border or the Missouri-Illinois border. So that's what we're expecting here for as far as timing. Around midnight or so, it'll probably be at the western border. And then as we head through the early morning hours here, I'm going to pause at, this is 4 a.m. You can see snow will be starting to get going across much more of the state. So really between midnight to 4 a.m. is when we're expecting this to, like I said, get rid of that dry air that we have from it being so cold and cold and dry, really, and that'll saturate that atmosphere, and then we'll start to have snow. Pretty quickly after the snow reaches the ground, it'll become pretty heavy. You could see, really right behind the leading edge of it, these darker blues here. And that represents, moderate to even maybe heavy snow at times. So pausing here at 6 a.m., snow will pretty much be ongoing across the entire state at this point, except maybe far southern Illinois where there's not enough forcing, really, and it's going to be above freezing already in southern Illinois. We have this, pretty strong low. It's right here in the middle of those isobars, and it's going to be moving this way. So as it does so, that warm air, that rain snow line will be gradually lifting north across southern and eventually central Illinois, especially as we get into Saturday afternoon. So I'm going to move through a couple more hours here. So this is by 8 a.m. Like I said, snow is really starting to get going across the whole state. Conditions will probably start to go downhill pretty quickly before dark for most of us, especially west of I-55 or so. The ground is cold. It's November, so you don't really think of the ground being that cold. In some cases, it wouldn't be cold enough for it to stick, but pavement temperatures are in the 20s across pretty much the entire state. Soil temperatures are also, just below freezing. So even though we haven't been that cold for very long, the snow will not have a problem sticking. I've seen some posts from some different social media pages saying that, we don't think it'll stick really, which doesn't really make any sense because yes, it is November, but the snow's going to start falling, before the sun even comes up, and it'll be well below freezing for all of us when the snow begins. I'll switch to temperatures here. You can see overnight tonight we're going to be, in the mid to upper 20s, and then as that snow starts going here, actually we're going to stay in the mid 20s until eventually, as that low pressure starts to lift northward, we'll start to get closer to that freezing mark into the afternoon hours. Much of northern Illinois will stay below freezing throughout the entire event, though. You can see as I cycle through here that freezing line gets up to near I-80 tomorrow night or tomorrow evening, and that's when some of that snow may switch over to drizzle, south of I-80 especially. But most of the snow will already have fallen by then, and but those warming temperatures will kind of help that snow compact a little bit and maybe even melt a little bit, especially across southern Illinois or central Illinois, I should say. But again, I'm going to move through a couple more frames here of this. Of it actually snowing. So we're going to pause here at noon. So this is the noon hour here across the state, and you can see this is almost, getting into the heaviest part of this storm as this low pressure approaches. So really the reason all this snow is developing out ahead of it is as this low pressure gets closer, warm air aloft is being advected up and over, this warm front that extends eastward from the actual low pressure. So as that happens, you get more forcing, and you get precipitation to form. And since it's cold, obviously, behind that system we had a couple days ago before Thanksgiving, that really drew a lot of cold air in from Canada and the further north of there even, and that's why we're really in a good setup for this to be a good snowmaker for a good chunk of the state. This actually, we were talking about this earlier in the ISC chat, this could be the most widespread accumulating snow for the state, significant accumulating snow, I should say, in almost 5 to even, I think the last 5 to honestly 10 years. And I know that sounds silly, and some of us have seen, parts of the state have seen significant snowfall since, but this really has the potential to be two-thirds of the northern two-thirds of the state may see most of us may see 6+ inches. So this in the weather world we call that spread the wealth type event, and that's what we like in the winter if you like snow. So again, conditions are going to go downhill pretty quickly Saturday, especially as we get into the afternoon. You can see here again, this is noon. Pretty much, the whole state is snowing except for far southern Illinois, where you have that rain-snow mix. So, if you're planning on traveling tomorrow, which a lot of people are, I think a lot of people try to get ahead of it. I just made the Shrek back up to where my place is, and I could tell there was a lot more traffic than usual for this, for the holiday Friday, I guess, Black Friday. You can tell a lot of people are trying to get to where they need to be early, even though Sunday, there should be improvement, but sometimes it's better just to not have to worry about it. So again, as we get into the early afternoon, that'll be the peak of this event. You can see those darker blues across the state. And as that rain snow line begins to lift southward across southern Illinois into parts of central Illinois, that'll bring an end to the snow further south. But further north here, across most of central and all of northern Illinois, this will really start to get cranking again around late morning into the early afternoon. This is 3 p.m. right here where I just paused this. You can, again, just really generally pretty heavy, moderate to heavy snow across the state. Then as I move into the 6 p.m. hour here, still snowing, so this is going to be a rather long duration event. At this point, it would already have been snowing for about 12 hours across parts of the state. This is when that low pressure starts to enter the state itself. And normally, when we want to get, a big snow, we want the low pressure to be further southwest of us. So normally, whoops, that is not what I meant to do. Normally, oh boy, I meant to hit the pen button. Normally, we'd want this low pressure to be near the, Illinois-Indiana border, or even further southeast of there. But with this low kind of tracking right over, north central Illinois later tomorrow afternoon. This is kind of a weird track, but since we have so much cold air in place again, this is going to be a mostly all snow event for those that are expected to see those significant snowfall. And we'll talk more about exact amounts here in a bit. But as we get into the 9 p.m. time frame here, you can see that that low pressure continues to move eastward. When that low pressure moves overhead, there'll be a loss of that warm air will kind of get tied up in it. There'll be a loss of forcing right near that center of low pressure. The best forcing is, further northeast or north of it. So that snow, that rain snow line will advance northward with it, probably get to near I-80 by, I would say a little before midnight here. You can see this is kind of, I'll zoom in a little bit here to just Illinois. So again, throughout the afternoon, snow. You see that rain snow line slowly creeping northward as that warm air aloft kind of ends that good snow production. You'll probably see a switch over to light rain or some drizzle across most of central Illinois at some point tomorrow afternoon or into the early evening. And then again, that rain snow line might get all the way as far north as I-80. This is right around midnight tomorrow night. So that will, like I said, say anywhere south of I-80, expect, a change over to probably drizzle, especially as you get further north. It's not going to rain hard and melt all the snow. But what you will have is some, compaction of that snow. It'll kind of, get a little bit mushier, but this won't be the most heavy wet snow. While we have most of the snow falling, indications are that snow liquid ratios will actually be above 10-1, which is the average, I guess, so to speak. In some parts of the event, they might be as high as 15-1, which that means if we had 1 inch of liquid precipitation falling, there'd be 15 inches of snow, so to speak. So if that's 10-1, 10 inches of snow, 1 inch of liquid, that's kind of the general rule of thumb. We think the averages will be around anywhere from 11-1 to 14-1 for much of this event. So it won't be the wettest snow ever, but as those temperatures creep up into the evening hours, especially up to I-80, that snow will become a little more dense later on, so you might want to try to shovel as soon as it stops snowing, just so you're not left with a brick of slop by the morning. But as soon as that system crosses eastward here, you see this model run has it being right over the lake just after midnight. We might get some I can't speak. Wraparound snow showers on the back end of this, probably more light snow into Sunday morning. You can see this is 6 a.m. Sunday morning. You actually can see some lake effect snow out over the lake here. We won't really have the best fetch of northeast winds to bring that on shore here in Illinois. That will definitely happen in, northern Indiana into southwestern Michigan on Sunday. But you can see here, this is, mid-morning Sunday. We might have still some light snow showers around the Indiana-Illinois border, but this will generally be ending by, early to mid-morning on Sunday. Most of the accumulating snow will be over by midnight tomorrow night. So, with that being said, I'm just going to switch to this visibility product here before we look at snow amounts. So this is really, kind of is a good indication of how quickly things will go downhill. So you can see this leading edge of the snow here. It goes from, good visibility, perfectly clear, to a half mile in less than an hour once that snow gets going. So once that profile, that lower atmosphere is saturated here, we'll have widespread visibility under a mile. You see at this point, this is about 8 a.m. We're only at a mile visibility here where the snow's beginning. That's at O'Hare and Midway. As that snow starts to get going, but just south and west of that, where it's already been snowing for at least an hour or two, visibility by this model is forecasted to be anywhere from a quarter to a half mile, which is moderate to heavy snow. And there won't be a ton of wind, at least during this event. It will be a bit breezy, especially on Sunday, but most of this will just be pretty heavy snow falling, especially during the late morning into the early afternoon hours. If I cycle through this here, pause at noon, you can see pretty much the whole northern half of the state is under, near or under a half mile visibility. So it'll be snowing at a good clip here, late morning into the early afternoon, like I said. And then, as we get into the evening hours, you can see it's still snowing further north, but that snow is lightening up as we see better visibility here. That's an indication that that snow will be a little lighter into the overnight hours, like I said. This model actually has some fog developing right under that low pressure center, which is possible. There will probably be some drizzle, very low clouds, so like I said, it'll be low visibility even, after the snow ends where there is drizzle. And then as we get into the overnight hours, you can see we're kind of left with that scattered, showery type snow. Not what we see earlier in the day with widespread visibilities under a mile, but instead, kind of those scattered snow showers that are, not as impactful as that widespread snow. So, by, I would say, midnight, Saturday night, Sunday morning, the damage will mostly be done. We will, the accumulating snow will be over with, even though we might see several more hours of, light snow showers on and off into Sunday morning. So let's just take a look at, what this model that we've been looking at here is indicating for snow accumulation. So again, this is just a model. This is not our forecast. Models are wrong all the time. But I will say that most guidance has been extremely consistent, about as consistent as anything has been for a winter storm in, several years, I would say, in showing, widespread totals in the, 6 to 12 inch range. Again, this model is probably overdoing it a little bit with the extent of these, foot plus amounts, I would say, and it might be overdoing it a bit on the southern extent as well, as that snow will be, much wetter on the southern edge of this system, and it'll be, melting right after it stops falling as that rain snow line moves northward. And again, you can see that really sharp gradient here around St. Louis to just northwest of Indianapolis. So, if you're driving south tomorrow or traveling south, once you get, south of St. Louis or, out of this, tight gradient you see, it'll be mostly problem free, just south of this tight gradient. But on the contrary, if you're going north here, on 55 or 57 or whatever it may be, you'll be going from, some light showers to, light rain, or drizzle to, pretty heavy snow in just, a very short time while you're driving. So conditions will go downhill very quickly here across, parts of central Illinois. And again, this is our travel risk map that we made a little while ago. This is really for Saturday afternoon when we expect the worst conditions to be. You can see again, we have this kind of, minimal to slight area here into St. Louis. But then as you get north here, north of I-70 really, or 74 especially, that's when you're going to have, pretty treacherous travel conditions, especially into the early afternoon hours. So again, mid-late morning into the mid-afternoon, I would say, is going to be the worst conditions just about everywhere. Again, rain or snow will be switching to rain or drizzle across southern and central Illinois eventually. It's just a matter of how fast that warm air works northward. I just showed that loop, and I'll kind of time it out a bit more or a bit better here in a minute. But again, our worst impacts are expected really along and near I-55 to northwest of there. Most of this, or the max amounts, I cannot speak today. The highest snowfall amounts will likely fall, and now I need to switch my color again because you can't see on this map. Let's see here. Sorry, I'll do that very quickly. Again, our heaviest snowfall amounts will likely fall generally in this area here. Near Des Moines to Cedar Rapids to far northwestern Illinois. That's where, the highest likelihood of a foot amounts are possible, or even locally higher if we can get some of those heavier snow bands to sit over the same areas for a while. And anywhere in this red area, isolated at least, especially as you get further east, it'll be more isolated because this system as a whole will kind of be drying out a bit as you head east. So say Detroit will not be getting nearly as much snow as northern Illinois will be getting, because this will be losing strength or losing steam as it heads eastward, and it fights that dry air, and the storm kind of becomes a little less dynamic as it moves eastward. So if you have plans to travel east maybe, or vice versa, there'll be less snow just east of us across the lake, except for the lake effect that'll kick in especially tomorrow night, Grand Rapids down to South Bend, but this red area here where we are expecting, significant travel issues here, you probably don't really want to be driving unless you have to, especially, the morning hours. Again, early to mid-morning hours, it'll start going downhill pretty quick into the mid to late afternoon will be the worst conditions. So again, that's kind of what we're looking at here. Again, central Illinois is kind of in that moderate area there, that moderate risk of, seeing travel disruptions tomorrow. And again, you will see a thump of heavy snow anywhere really north of I-70, but especially as you get closer to 74, it's just a matter of how long those heavier snowfall rates last and how quickly it ends and switches over to drizzle or very light rain. So again, the worst conditions across northern Illinois, especially the north half or so of Iowa. North central Iowa is going to get slammed as well. That's probably where the highest totals from this event, anywhere going to fall is kind of in the circled area that I just kind of picked out there. 10 to 12 inches locally higher is certainly possible. Then as we, get into this region over here across northern Illinois, not much less, I would say 7 to 11 inches for most of us, I would say locally maybe a little more. But as you head eastward, those east of I-39 especially, the chances of more than a foot of snow decrease quite a bit. But any way you put it, really, I would say everywhere in this red area, even most locations in this orange area north of I-74, lined up to see at least 6 inches of snow. And again, this is the first time we've had this widespread of an event producing 6 inches or more of snow across this large of a state in really a long time. The last several winters have been pretty bland as far as as far as widespread accumulating snow is gone. So it feels weird to be forecasting something that's actually going to pan out. And, like I said, we're already seeing this appear on radar tonight. And actually, let me go to, this is a website called Aviation Weather Center. And you might be thinking, well, what does that have to do with, what we're talking about here? And that's a good point. But you can see observations across Iowa here at this hour. Here in Webster City, already down to a half-mile visibility under the snow already. And, this is just starting to get going. Same with Hampton, Iowa. If we go a little, let's see here, Waterloo down to a mile here already, and the snow just began in the last, hour or so. So that kind of gives you an indication of how quickly things are going to go downhill. You can see a little further east here, 2-mile visibility here at Vinton Airport here, it looks like, in east central Iowa, I'd say. But you can see this whole area of snow is starting to just slowly get its act together here. And further south here, like I said, this is, temperatures are above freezing once you get into much of Missouri here. So this is going to be rain for these folks down here. But this whole thing is going to, let's see if it'll load. Maybe not. All right, but this whole area of precipitation here, there we go. That's going to, continue to strengthen and grow throughout the rest of the evening hours. And then once we get, near midnight or just after, it'll reach that Illinois, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri border there. So it's definitely coming. It's actually going to happen. It's not, another fake out. We actually think this is going to accumulate pretty well, especially across northern Illinois, like we said. I wouldn't believe those, pages or sources or whatever saying, 12 to 18 inches. I think that's a bit overdone. And even this, this model that we looked at right here is probably a bit overdone in some spots, but I mean, it's just been so consistent, it's hard to ignore at this point. Widespread, like I said, 6 to 10 inches for really the northern half of the state, again, north of I-74 especially. You can see here across, like I just circled on that other map, across, the western sections and northwestern sections of Illinois. That's where those 12 inches or even locally higher amounts are possible. You can see this model maxes out at 21 inches across central Iowa there, and we'll have to see if that actually happens. But that is where it's already snowing right now. So, if that banding, if that stronger banding can really hold itself together over the same locations for a while, maybe some places we'll see closer to 15 inches across central Iowa. Again, further east, as you go further east, the system will kind of be drying itself out a bit. So snowfall or max snowfall amounts will, start to decrease as you head east. And if I zoom out a bit, you can really see how this will dry out as you head east. So you see here, this is kind of the epicenter across Iowa, those, 12 to 15-inch amounts that this model is predicting. Again, I would not be surprised for many locations to see at least a foot of snow across central Iowa. But then as you head east, especially, east of I-39 there, those foot-plus amounts start to, stop showing up here. And then as you get into Michigan, it's really in Detroit especially, really, 4 to 8 inches, if that even. So the system will be kind of drying out as it heads east a bit. But that still is, that's not downplaying it at all. This is going to be a significant snowmaker for the northern half of the state, really. But again, that really sharp cutoff here on that southern end of the snow or the precipitation field, that will be because of that, low pressure center moving north, dragging that warm air with it, changing that snow to rain. Kind of lose that better forcing, so it'll be drizzle most likely. But again, northern half of the state, you are under the gun for quite a bit of snow here. So again, really 6 to 10 inches is a pretty broad brush forecast, and I'll pull up our specific snowfall forecast map here in a little bit. Something else that I wanted to pull up here is the wind gusts. So winds are pretty much calm across the state right now, which is very nice. It's still chilly, but the winds are not much of a factor. But you can see into, this is noon Saturday, winds will be gusting to, 30 to 35 miles per hour across the southern half of the state. It'll take a little longer for them to get going further north. But the latest guidance has actually, with the stronger system, has brought a slight uptick in potential wind gusts. So especially in open areas of, north central and central Illinois, before that, switch over to rain happens, or drizzle, I should say, more likely drizzle than actual rain. You might get some blowing and drifting snow, and that definitely will not help the visibility situation, especially in open areas. I'm sure folks that live in, open areas know exactly what I'm talking about. when you are driving through a field and all of a sudden, even it could be a sunny day, but if you have snow on the ground, you get strong winds, it goes to zero visibility or near whiteout conditions in an instant. Another thing is the winds will be coming out of the southeast, which is pretty rare for a significant snow event. Usually we have winds coming out of the northeast as that low pressure kind of, passes us to the east. But this is, kind of a unique event here. We'll have winds out of the southeast here, but those southeast winds will be helping advect that warmer air northward. So again, that's why we expect to switch over to rain, drizzle, whatever, across, southern and central Illinois tomorrow early afternoon into the early evening hours. And eventually that rain snow line could get all the way up to I-80 like we were talking about, but by then most of the snow will be out of here anyway. But again, so there might be, this is about 6 p.m. tomorrow evening here. Winds could be gusting to, 30 to 35 miles per hour. This might be a little aggressive here. But still, nevertheless, it'll still be, it won't help, like I just said, it will not help visibility, that'll just make it worse. This won't be a super wet, heavy snow for most of us, especially the further north you are. So, it might be a little bit more blowing and drifting than what has been talked about. Everyone's been so worried about the, snow amounts, but we might have to deal with some, blowing snow as well. So again, then we move through the overnight hours. That low pressure, passes overhead. The winds decrease, but then they switch to the northwest Sunday morning, and finally, they drop throughout the day. But early Sunday morning, we might have some pretty gusty 30 to 40 mile per hour winds out of the northwest there. And for locations that saw 6+ inches of snow, which will be most of us at that point, there definitely might be some drifting snow. So even after the snow ends Sunday morning, I would give road crews a few hours to get out there and be able to actually plow everything to their, so it's better because there might, even if, like I said, even after the snow ends, there might still be some blowing, drifting snow in open areas. This is a different model. This is the NAM model. This is the high resolution NAM. This also just came out. I haven't looked at this quite yet, but we are going to go through it again. So again, this is, early morning hours. This is about, 3 a.m. or so. That snows about halfway through the northern half of the state, about that I-39 corridor there. And again, as that, dry air gets shunted out of here by that snow. Snow will really start to get going again late morning into the early afternoon. This is about noon. Pretty much moderate to heavy snow across the entire northern 2/3 or so of the state there. So things will really be getting underway by mid-morning again. I've said that many times now, but it's true. This model is a little less aggressive with that warm air. It actually keeps most of central Illinois and all of northern Illinois just snow, which, it kind of has it be very light and showery here. This will probably be a, light snow grains, or, maybe graupel, some drizzle mix here, again, all the way up to I-80, possibly with that low pressure center, traversing over northern Illinois. That'll swing that rain snow line up with it. But again, we really don't expect that to cut down on amounts very much. We think that by the time that happens, most of this accumulating snow will be over with. So again, this is about midnight, midnight, Saturday night, into Sunday morning. We will be, snow begins to lighten up by then, just like the other model. Again, they're in pretty good agreement at this point. And then we just have some scattered light snow showers on the backside of this into Sunday morning. So that is kind of what we're expecting. Now let's take a look at what this model is throwing out for accumulation, because I haven't looked at this yet. All right, so this is probably pretty realistic, I would say. This is a little more realistic than that last model we looked at. So again, max amounts across north central Iowa here, 12 to maybe 15 inches there. That's where you see those pink colors. Then these purple colors represent 6+ inches, and a pretty widespread, 6 to 9 inches for most of us, and then 7 to 10 or so northwest of I-55. So I'll zoom back in here, get a better look at what exactly this looks like. So again, don't take these numbers to heart. This is just one model's output. But again, you can see the further north northwest you are, the more is expected. Another thing that I kind of want to point out is models have been, kind of, oh, now I have to switch, but that's all right. Models have been kind of reducing snow accumulations right along the lakeshore there with those southeasterly winds and the lake water still being in the low 40s at this point. That might actually melt some of that snow right along the beaches. It's probably overdoing it a bit. This has reduced accumulations several miles inland. It'll probably be more localized to the immediate shoreline, but still, if you live right on the lakefront, that might be something to keep in mind there. That you might have a little less snow than further inland with that warm lake water. But you get the idea. Generally, 6 to 10 inches across much of northern Illinois, central Illinois a little less. And with that being said, let's look at our latest snowfall forecast. We are going to issue an update to this later this evening, around 11 or so is when we usually do it. But this is, pretty much what we're thinking here. Again, highest amounts across northwestern, west central Illinois. We're going with 8 to 11 for right now, locally higher. And then this dark purple area across much of the Chicago metro, down south to the Kankakee area, south of Peoria. That is our, that's what we're looking at for, we're looking at 6 to 9 inches for that area, locally higher as well. But I think 6 to 9 is a pretty good range at this point. At least 6, might be closer to 8 or 9, especially the further northwest you are. And then again, central Illinois here, we have more of a gradient going on here in the Champaign to Springfield corridor. 4 to 7 is what we're thinking, still a pretty healthy snowfall. But then as you get south of Springfield into the Effingham area, that's where you're going to have reduced... Geez, I keep making that pop up. Reduced accumulations because, the duration of snow will be shorter lived down here as that, rain snow line works its way northward Saturday afternoon. So, St. Louis to Effingham, you'll probably have a quick burst of moderate to even heavy snow. Might be, really large flakes accumulating pretty quickly here in the morning hours. But that'll, be short-lived compared to areas further north where it may snow for, 12 to even 15 hours or so, maybe even 16 for some of us. But again, it won't be snowing rates of 1 inch per hour. We expect an average of snowfall rates about 1/2 inch per hour throughout the event as a whole. So, it won't be crazy heavy snowfall rates, but, if you have, 12 hours of 1/2 inch snowfall rates, that's still 6 inches of snow. Another thing to think about is, especially points further south where temperatures will be a bit more marginal and the snow might be a little more compact. That snow might be a little harder to measure with it being more wet and compact further south. But further north, we're expecting a bit of a lighter snow. Again, winds are going to be gusting 20 to 40 miles per hour during a good portion of this event, especially Saturday afternoon. And then again, Sunday morning, winds will be gusty out of the northwest as well. So we are, we are a bit more concerned about blowing and drifting snow in open areas, farm fields, things like that. So I'm going to, let's see. All right, I see that we're having some sort of echo issue. I should have checked these comments sooner to make sure. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. I apologize. I don't know why that's happening. Yeah, I have a new microphone here that I've started using relatively recently. Let me see if this helps at all. Hopefully this isn't too loud. All right. All right, someone let me know in the comments if that's any better. All right, it's fixed? Okay, that's strange. I don't know why it did that for a while. Haven't really changed anything, but I should have checked the comments sooner. I just started babbling on, so apologies about that. But thank you guys for letting me know. That's weird. But anyways, hopefully that the echo doesn't come back. If it does, please let me know. I'll be paying closer attention to the comments now. Like I said, I just kind of went on a tangent, just trying to get through the first few things here, but all right, glad. Okay, good. I see people saying it's much better now. All right, again, apologies for that. Like I said, this is my first live I've done in quite some time here. We'll be doing them more often, especially if the weather is going to be as active as it looks it's going to be to start December here. But anyways, back into it. Yeah, looking at snowfall amounts here again. Heaviest amounts, northwestern Illinois, general 6 to 9, locally higher across the Chicagoland area. And then as you get into central Illinois, those 2 to 5, that 2 to 5 range between 70 and 74, and then 4 to 7 inches a bit further north into, north central Illinois. So again, like I said several times now. Oh, another thing that I want to mention too, we cannot rule out the chance of some Thundersnow tomorrow too. This will be a pretty dynamic system. It'll be, you know, pretty, oh, maybe that's why it's echoing. Okay. There we go. All right, that like I said, it's been my first stream in a bit, so I forgot that you should mute yourself so it doesn't echo back. That might have been the reason it was doing that too. But anyways, Thundersnow may be possible tomorrow, and that is something that everybody loves. Thundersnow. We had a little bit of Thundersnow in downtown Chicago with that lake effect event we had a few weeks ago, but there will be some instability available for, you know, if we get some of that strong banding of, you know, where you get those really heavy snowfall rates that approach or maybe even are around, you know, right around 1 inch per hour, we could see a little bit of Thundersnow. We don't expect it to be widespread, but the best chances of any Thundersnow would be across western Illinois here, northwestern Illinois, where dynamics will be a little better. Again, the system is kind of generally weakening as it heads eastward. You know, that's not really going to make much of an effect on snow amounts, but we do expect those heavier amounts to be across the northwestern quarter or so of the state, west of 39, that sort of area. But let's see here. All right. Yeah, so again, we will be watching for that. I'm going to go back to this model here, and this actually has a lightning density product here. We'll go to convective lightning density. So you can see where those little gray areas are showing up. That is the model kind of trying to resolve some potential Thundersnow or, you know, thunder within the precipitation. You can see it doesn't really survive too well north of, you know, I-88 or so or further northeast. The higher, you know, density of those alleged lightning strikes that this model is picking up are, you know, especially across western Illinois, and that's kind of what we're expecting. The dynamics will be a bit stronger further west there, but you know, we can't rule out, you know, an isolated instance of Thundersnow across anywhere that's going to be seeing precipitation tomorrow. Again, snow is going to come down pretty good for at least, you know, several hours until it tapers off tomorrow evening, so we will have to watch for that. Again, Thundersnow is a pretty rare occurrence. It really doesn't happen that often. I'm not sure how many of you folks have seen thunder or heard Thundersnow or seen it, if you've seen the flash, you know. But usually it's very loud because, you know, it's very cold, so the sound travels a little better. And usually they're positive strikes as well, which are generally those really loud crashes of thunder that, you know, wake you up in the middle of the night if you're sleeping. And again, this won't be, you know, there won't be lightning strikes, you know, every few seconds or even minutes. It would probably just be 1 or 2 here and there. But I hope I'm wrong, and I hope there's more than I expect. But, you know, again, Thundersnow will be something to watch out for, especially western Illinois, I would say. Take a look at one more model here. This is just the NAM, not the 3-kilometer one, so it's a little less high resolution. So again, this is 6 a.m. tomorrow. Snow is really getting going in earnest here across most of Illinois at this point, central, west central, even northern at this point. Again, the further northeast you are, the longer it'll take to overcome that dry air, but it'll do it early tomorrow morning. And then, you know, mid-morning, we're really getting underway across the entire state, moderate to heavy snow, into the early afternoon as well. And then as that low pressure center approaches here, that's, you know, we might see some of that Thundersnow across especially western Illinois as that gets going. And then as we head into the evening hours, again, this model in particular isn't too aggressive with that rain snow line, but still you do see a lot lighter returns here across, you know, central Illinois once that low pressure kind of passes overhead or just north. And we do expect, you know, that 32-degree line to start to advance north, make it all the way to I-80 during the evening, and then again that light snow on the backside. And real quick here, I'll get more into this in a bit, but you might see this coming in and you're like, well, what the heck is that? This is our next snow system that we haven't even talked about yet because we've been so focused on this one. We are actually expecting another system, not as strong as this one, but we are expecting a snow system to affect the state Monday afternoon through the evening rush into Tuesday morning. So that will be our next thing to watch. As soon as this one's over, we'll start talking about that one right away. It doesn't look to be as significant as this, but it does look like a solid maybe 2 to 4 inch event for areas that already, you know, are going to see 6+ inches tomorrow. So this could be, you know, quite the start to winter here. Some locations, or maybe even many locations, might have 8 to 12 inches of snow on the ground as we begin December, or by the second day of December, I should say, because this falls on the 1st. So that'll be the next thing to watch. But again, back to this system, and you can see here, just looking at both of them as I loop them through, the second one is not nearly as long duration or as strong as this one, but something that it will have going for it is this cold air behind this system will reinforce, we'll get a reinforcing shot of cold air, and this will be a very light, fluffy snow for most of us. So that'll be something to watch. And even though it's not looking too impressive right now, we can look at what it's putting out for snow amounts here. Yeah, it looks like a general 2 to 4 inches at this point. It has been shifting northward quite a bit over the last several runs here too. But if this storm, can phase itself a little sooner, which doesn't look too likely at the moment, we might even beef up these totals to maybe 3 to 5, or maybe even 4 to 6 for some of us if we're lucky. But right now, this looks like a general 2 to 4 inch event, especially across central and northern Illinois. We'll get more into the specifics of that after tomorrow's event here. But like I said, we've been focused on tomorrow for quite some time here. So again, we move through the day here. Again, heaviest snowfall, I would say, between mid-morning, Saturday morning, tomorrow morning, through the early evening hours, and then we start to lose some of that better forcing and better moisture aloft. Something else I'm going to look at real quick here is that, let's see, I'm going to look at the relative humidity. This is at 700 millibars. So this is about, halfway, or a little under halfway through the atmospheric column, as we call it here. So this is where snow production really, happens, I guess. So you see here, this is around noon tomorrow. We have lots of, we have very saturated profile here, 99, 98%. And this is what we want to see for good snow production. But you'll see these red and, whoops, I did not mean to do that. You'll see these red and black colors coming in here, and that is that dry air, that dry slot starting to wrap around here, that mid-level dry slot. And that dry air is what will change the precipitation to, drizzle, or maybe even some light rain showers across central and southern Illinois as that system kind of pushes eastward here and pushes that dry air along in with it and starts to wrap it around the whole system. So again, this is dry air being modeled here by this model. It doesn't get it quite as far north as some other guidance does. But either way here, as that dry slot kind of works itself in, we'll start to lose that better snow production tomorrow evening and especially overnight tomorrow night. But further north here, again, across far northern Illinois into southern Wisconsin, that's where we will see, that dry air won't really get that far north. So that's where we'll see continued at least light to moderate snow showers, light snow showers through the Saturday night into Sunday morning time frame. And then again, behind the system, we're left with a reinforcing shot of cold air here. If I look at the temperatures here, forecast temperatures. So again, we start the event in the mid to upper 20s. That 32 degree, that freezing line that you can see right here, it does try to push northward. Like I said earlier, this model does get it all the way up to the I-80 corridor tomorrow evening, tomorrow early overnight. So, tomorrow morning temperatures will be gradually rising throughout the day, and then by the time it gets dark out, many of us might be near or even just above freezing, especially across southern or central and southern Illinois. Far southern Illinois, you might be into the mid to upper 30s, but again, we'll probably be right around 32 for much of north central and central Illinois. But then once that system pushes east of us, we'll get that cold air advection and temperatures will fall. Actually, will fall early Sunday morning. And then, especially Sunday night, you can see this model here has some splotchy, near zero low temperatures for Sunday night. And this is kind of dependent on where the deepest snow falls, where the deepest snowpack is at this point. Because when you have, a deep snowpack, that it really helps cool us off at night even more. And in some cases, it could be, 10 to 20 degrees colder than if there was no snow on the ground. So you can see here it models, near zero to the single digits to the teens here across north central and northern Illinois where that deeper snowpack is, but far southern Illinois where there won't be any snow on the ground will only be in the mid to upper 20s. So that snow is really going to make us quite a bit colder. And once you get a deep snowpack going, it kind of can feed off of itself sometimes until you get a strong system that will melt it. But temperatures will be in the highs will be in the 20s likely Sunday and Monday. And then once again, Tuesday or Monday, we get that next system to come through, and then another reinforcing shot of cold air behind that. So this is a very wintry pattern, almost more of a wintry pattern than we've seen in several years, especially to start December here. I can't even remember the last time that we've had, this this kind of look this early in the winter time. Let me just make sure here. All right, looks like we're all good. This is one more look at a model here. This is the GFS. This is, one of the, most people like to look at this for, lower resolution type data, like the ones we just looked at, the NAM and the HER. Those are a little better when you get closer in, but still, this is called a global model, and this one and the European model usually do a pretty good job, and they've been in really remarkable agreement. You can see this is pretty much the same solution that the other two models we looked at show, or the other three, I should say. And as far as snow accumulation, it's also very close. Oh, okay, well, this is actually a bit higher here, and these totals are definitely overdone. We're not going to see widespread 12 plus inches across the northern 2/3 of the state. But you get the point. Again, I think that this model is a little more realistic here. Sorry if you guys can hear the cat meowing. He's not getting enough attention. But again, this is a little more realistic of what we think will happen. Again, this is the high-resolution North American model. Again, a general, 6 to 10 inches for most of us across north central, northern Illinois, and then the highest amounts will be across northwestern, western Illinois, and central Iowa. So that's kind of what we're expecting here. Pretty much went through all of the models. Again, I'm going to look back here at this is, again, the HER high resolution model. Again, don't take these snowfall amounts to heart, but I'm going to show you the evolution. I'll zoom out a bit. I'm going to do it with this one, actually. The evolution of how this model has handled this system throughout the past couple days. So this is the current run. Excuse me, we're going to go back in time here. You can see this was the 18Z run. This came out earlier this afternoon. This was this morning's run. This was last night's run. You can see how remarkably consistent it's been with location of the heaviest snowfall totals. I mean, if we go through the past 2 days of runs here, it really hasn't changed much at all. I mean, it's come back down to earth a bit. It's not showing these, 15 to 20 inch amounts that it was across, especially Iowa and northwestern Illinois. But as we get closer to the event, which it usually does, it'll start to come back down to earth and be a little more realistic here. So that's what we're seeing, we think. But the location of where we're expecting the snow has really not changed at all. So, our forecast has been remarkably steady throughout the last couple of days. We've just increased amounts a bit as we've gotten closer into this event. And again, if I go back to what we have here on our snowfall map, this is what we are officially forecasting as of right now. Again, check back around 11. We'll have another update here. But again, the highest amounts across northwestern Illinois, the dark purple, 6 to 9 inches. The lighter purple, 4 to 7. Quincy to Springfield to Champaign, that's what we're expecting for you folks. And then as you get into the Effingham to St. Louis corridor, lesser in this dark blue, 2 to 5 inches, where snow will be shorter lived, and we'll have that flip over to drizzle as temperatures rise above freezing. And then as you get further south of there, and as you get as far south as Carbondale, you'll really just have a dusting, if that even. Depends if we can get, an hour or so of thump of snow before it switches over there as that warm air pushes north, and that dry air as well shuts off snow production. So again, this is what we're going with right now. We haven't produced a map like this in several years. It's really been a while since we've had this widespread of a snow event. I'm going to look back here at our headlines that we issued earlier. If you're new to the page, or if you've even followed us for a while, as many of you have, this is something new that we are starting to do this winter here. We're issuing our own winter weather headlines. It has no affiliation with the National Weather Service. It's kind of just what we're trying out here, see how people receive it, because sometimes we might have a slightly different opinion as them. But the National Weather Service has a winter storm warning out for really just about the same areas that are under this, what we call a heavy snow warning. So these purple counties here, that's where we're expecting, 9 p.m. Friday to 9 a.m. Sunday. So this just went into effect technically 9 minutes ago. But again, this, we'll have to wait a few hours for this snow to start going across western Illinois. And again, if you are seeing any snow, or overnight, if you are, let us know, and we will. That's good to know, because it's important to monitor trends here. You know, if it takes longer than expected for snow to reach the ground, that might cut into snow totals a bit. But if snow, you know, starts falling a little sooner than anticipated, it might be the opposite, and that might, you know, boost snow totals a little bit. But again, a general 5 to 11 inches across this watch area. Again, I just showed you that map where, you know, where it's a little more specific. But the criteria for our heavy snow warning is 6 inches or more, and then further south from the St. Louis to Effingham corridor and just north of there, that's where we have a snow advisory, similar to a winter weather advisory that the National Weather Service issues. That's where we're looking at that 2 to 5 inch range. And again, those impacts and road impacts will be greatest across this heavy snow warning area. So again, this is kind of more of a, I guess, travel-based impact type thing. You know, the worst conditions will be across this purple area where the heavy snow warning is in effect. This snow advisory area here, it'll be definitely treacherous for at least a few hours, but that snow should shut off by early evening or even late afternoon Saturday, tomorrow. So, you know, crews will have a chance to clear things pretty quickly. But further north, it'll just keep snowing for, you know, 12 to 16 hours, and even though it won't be, you know, super heavy the entire time, that still adds up after many hours of, you know, light, even just light snow. So this will be a longer duration event. You know, I'll go back and show, you know, how much we are expecting by, you know, noon or something like that, or different time frames throughout the day. But it'll be, you know, a longer duration event, like I just said. It won't come down all in, you know, 3 hours like we've seen with some events over the past couple of years. It'll keep going for quite a while. So it'll be quite wintry tomorrow. It'll really put you in the Christmas spirit. And a lot of people put up their Christmas decorations right after Thanksgiving. So tomorrow will be a great day to do it, and especially once it gets dark out, to turn on the lights with the snow. It's not much better than that, and especially because we haven't been able to do that lately because we haven't had any snow in December. So this will be a nice change, I guess, one way to look at it. But again, on the not-so-nice side of things, this will make roads pretty messy tomorrow, significantly messy across especially northern Illinois. Again, if you're traveling across I-80, for example, I have a friend coming back from Nebraska, he asked me, you know, how will I-80 be tomorrow? And I said, well, that's about the worst route you could choose to take, because pretty much the whole I-80 corridor all the way through Iowa into Illinois is going to be just, you know, in this the heaviest axis of snowfall, especially during the daytime hours tomorrow. So, you know, visibility will be low. Again, we looked at that visibility output from the HER model. You know, less than a mile for much of the day tomorrow for, you know, some locations for as many as, you know, 6 to 12 hours before things lighten up tomorrow evening or overnight. And again, this red area is where travel is going to be not advised during the daytime hours tomorrow. So, you know, if you have to get somewhere, it's a little late now, but you might want to do that here in the next few hours if you can, unless you can wait till Sunday. If you can wait till Sunday, conditions should be fine by the afternoon hours, again, except in those wide open areas where you might have some continued blowing and drifting snow. But we think, you know, once the sun comes up on Sunday, road crews and plows should be able to get most of the interstates and main roads cleared pretty quickly once that snow actually ends Sunday morning. And I'm sure they'll be working very hard all day tomorrow and all night Saturday night, so thank you to our plow drivers, because that is not going to be an easy job. It's going to be a long day and long night tomorrow, but that's what they're here for, and I'm sure they will do their best. I'm going to show you guys this. I'm sure many of you have heard of this before, but this Getting Around Illinois winter road condition website here. This is a really good website to look at if you do have to hit the roads tomorrow. It'll show you, right now there's nothing on it because everywhere is clear, but it will, this key over here will show you, you know, roads are clear if there's nothing on them like they are right now. This light blue partly covered with ice or snow, this light pink mostly covered, and then this purple is where it's bad. That's where it's completely covered with ice and snow. And I expect, you know, by 4 to 6 a.m., this area over here across western Illinois will start to turn blue and pink and even purple very quickly. So again, you know, things will go downhill very quickly tomorrow morning. Snow will stick to just about every surface if it's untreated, with pavement temperatures in the 20s. Again, I mentioned that earlier. It's been cold the last couple of days, and, you know, even though it hasn't been cold for too long, it'll be cold enough where, you know, things will start to stick on just about every surface, or I should say snow will start to stick on just about every surface very, very quickly. So that's kind of what we're expecting here. I'm trying to think what I've missed here.
Again, I started the video with this here, but this is, what we're looking at right now. This is already starting to take shape here across Iowa, especially. And again, this will just continue to organize and eventually push into Illinois overnight tonight into the very early morning hours tomorrow. So I've been blabbering away for about 45, oh wow, almost an hour actually. That really flew by. Oh, it's echoing again? Oh no. I don't know why it's doing that.
I apologize. I really don't know why. I will have to troubleshoot that. That's really annoying. Still echoing. All right. Let me try to switch my mic here and let me know if that is better. Alright, I just switched the microphone to just my computer mic instead of this one that I was using. If that's any better, if someone can let me know. I don't know why it's doing that. I'll have to troubleshoot that. But again, thank you for letting me know, because otherwise I would have no idea. I'd just keep blabbing away like I did at the beginning of the video and wouldn't even know that it's echoing. So if you can hear me all right now, let me know. But also with that being said, if anybody has any more specific questions, please, this is the time to put them in the comments. I've been trying to scan, see if anybody's been asking any. Evansville, Indiana, that's a good question, actually. So let me, because we've had some people, ask, oh, can you extend your map into, Indiana or Wisconsin or, even Iowa. And we have tried that in the past, but it's just, sometimes, especially for bigger events like this, we like to, just focus on just the state, just since it's, Illinois Storm Chasers, technically. But Evansville, all the way down, but again, we're always happy to answer questions. And of course, lots of us travel into Indiana or Wisconsin or whatever, so the weather doesn't just stop right at the border, obviously, but that is why, these warnings aren't extended. We just do it for Illinois, really, and that's something we've debated quite a bit within ISC, but for now, that's how we're doing things. But again, we're always open to comments and suggestions. So again, Evansville is right down here, southern Indiana. We're really not expecting much in the way of really any snow accumulation down there. If we go back to our model here, nope, I have to zoom out. If we go back to this here, you can see how, alright, so Evansville is roughly right about there. You can see how most of the snow is going to be northwest of there, and then once precipitation does reach there, it's rain. So I really wouldn't expect things to be bad at all in Evansville. You probably will have some rain showers, maybe even a clap of thunder tomorrow afternoon into the evening hours, but not expecting any snow as far south as Evansville, Indiana. This will be mostly northwest of there. Any anticipation regarding airport impacts? So that is a really good question, actually. I would say yes, definitely. I would say both O'Hare and Midway are probably going to be significantly impacted tomorrow. I would say, really, this is tough to time it out, but I would say delays will probably begin around 6 a.m., and really the entire day is going to be screwed up, unfortunately. There's really no good way to say it, that it's just going to be a really mess of a day for air travel. If flights aren't canceled, which I'm sure some will be, there will be significantly delayed, and this is why. So, again, this is that visibility product here. So, 6 a.m. here, that leading edge of the heavier snow is, right at O'Hare and Midway. You can see visibility is going to go from, perfect to, a mile in less than an hour, essentially, once snow begins. So once visibility drops under a mile at airports, you can see here by around 10 a.m., it's solidly under a mile at both O'Hare and Midway. Once visibility drops under a mile, that's when delays really start to add up, and sometimes we'll even have to do a ground stop to clear all the runways, especially if snow is falling at a rate of, a half inch or more per hour. So it's hard to say just how bad it'll be tomorrow, and I feel really bad saying this because I know it's one of the busiest travel days of the whole year for air travel and, driving too. But unfortunately, I do not think it's going to be a great day for flying. Again, that snow will be falling at a pretty good rate. The ground will be cold. It will be harder to, melt on contact like we've seen with so many events lately. I would not be surprised if there's at least temporary ground stops at both O'Hare and Midway for at least, a short period of time. But, it really just depends on how well they can clear the runways and how just how heavy it really ends up snowing. Again, I think that tomorrow, mid-morning through mid to late afternoon will be the worst conditions. That's when this is indicating visibilities will be under a half mile. And once you get, closer to a quarter mile, that's when things really grind to a halt at the airport. Some planes are, not even allowed to fly once we get down to that level of a quarter mile visibility or less. That's what we call airport minimums. I don't think we'll get, extremely low tomorrow for visibility. It won't be the heaviest snow we've ever seen, but it will definitely be enough to screw up air travel quite significantly, which is not, I don't like saying that because I know a lot of people have, travel plans or flights home or, wherever tomorrow. So I do not like saying that. But the good news is if you have air travel or if you have a flight on Sunday, things should be much improved. You can see once that light snow moves out of here Sunday morning, visibility will be better. They'll be able to clear all the runways and tarmacs and everything. And I would say things should be largely unaffected on Sunday, except for residual delays from tomorrow, possibly. But if you have a flight tomorrow, someone asked me this earlier, actually, and I told them, I'd probably recommend, unfortunately, trying to switch it to either today, which is too late for that now, or or Sunday, I should say, if possible, which I know is not possible for everybody. Just don't want you to waste the whole day sitting at the airport for a flight that never leaves. So it's definitely going to be major issues at the airports tomorrow. I haven't heard anything official of what they're planning if they're planning to cancel flights preemptively or anything like that. But I just based off of what I know, I would say it's going to be quite a mess for air travel. If we look at hourly snowfall rates here, let's see. So this is snow rates just in 1 hour. So you can see that during the peak of the event, late morning into the early afternoon, snowfall rates will be anywhere between a half inch to an inch per hour. And, that's what we're expecting for the peak of the event until Sunday or Saturday evening when, things taper off to just light snow showers. Anything, again, above a half inch of snow per hour, that really starts to cause delays and cancellations. So, unfortunately, hopefully you're able to get around that somehow, but that's kind of what we're expecting. And even Milwaukee, too, a little further north, they will, see a little bit of a later onset to the snow, but still, it's, really most airports in the region except for further south. Like St. Louis, for example, might be a rough few hours in the morning tomorrow when snow begins, but once that ends and flips over to rain or drizzle, they should be able to get things moving pretty quickly here. You can see St. Louis will have a few hour period of, moderate to even heavy snow before that rain snow line advances through in the afternoon, early afternoon, and it switches over to just rain. So that is kind of, hopefully that answers that question. I know, like I said, I just blab on here. Let me see. Westchester, Illinois. I see that's the next question. I would say, again, going back to our little snow map here, I would say Westchester's really lined up for a good 6 to 9 inches, which I know is what it says on our map here. If I had to put a specific number on it, I would say 8.5 for Westchester. I earlier said this morning for O'Hare Airport, for example, I said 7.5. Now I've revised that to close to 8 to 8.5 inches. That's just what I feel will happen. And again, it won't fall all at once, like I said. So I'll go back to this here. By noon, all right, so this is actually just by 6 a.m., you can see west of I-39, we're already going to have 2 to 4 inches, maybe even locally more, on the ground here. St. Louis will already have an inch or two down just in a very short amount of time. But that snow will stop accumulating further south as that warm air and dry air moves northward. If we pause here at noon, you can see even up to Chicago, there might only be 2 inches of snow on the ground by noon, which, some of you might be like, well, what the heck? I thought we were going to get 8. Well, we still have several more hours of snow to go after that. You can see how through the afternoon it kind of fills itself in and we end up, this model says we end up around 10 in Cook County for most, 10 to 11, but, that's probably a bit overdone. I'd say, 8 to 9 probably is more reasonable at this point. But, anywhere in that 6 to 9 inch range is what we're thinking. Bristol, Illinois, if you're still listening. That's another good question here in kind of near the Kendall, or not Kendall, yeah, near the Kendall-Grundy border. I would say, pretty similar to what I just said for Westchester. Maybe a little more, maybe, 9 to 10 inches instead of, 8 to 9. And again, this is what our official snow map says. You see Bristol's a little closer to that pink area of 8 to 11 inches there. But, well, again, like I said, we are going to look at everything that comes out with this 0Z data. That's the model runs that are coming out right now. We looked at some of those, and we are going to, revise this a little bit. I don't think it'll be much too significant of a change at all. But we will produce a revised map here probably in a couple hours here. So before you go to bed, check back if you can. But yeah. All right, well, I'm not seeing any new questions here. But if anybody has some last-minute questions... Oh, Westchester hit by any rain. Oh, I didn't read that correctly. Oh, no, that's a new question. That's a good question, too, actually. So I think that... I wouldn't say it's going to rain in Westchester. I think that rain-snow line tomorrow evening will probably remain just south of Westchester. I think it's going to get right up to I-80. And instead of rain, I would say it's going to be more drizzle. We're going to lose a lot of that forcing, a lot of that moisture in the profile is going to be, dried out from that dry slot pushing overhead. And a lot of times what happens with that is we get drizzle. So you can see here in Grundy to Kankakee County, just south of that low pressure center, modeled by this particular model. You see that those really light green colors, some of that mixed precipitation. I would not be surprised if that's just drizzle. I wouldn't really expect it to rain, more than just, like I said, a drizzle. And that will, make the snow compact itself quite a bit and, it might look a little less than what's actually fallen by that point. But Westchester, you're going to be kind of right on that edge there. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a very short period of drizzle for you, but I would say most of this, I would say at least like 95% of this event will be all snow. That far north for Westchester, again, points south of there, though, there might be a couple hour period of drizzle or a switch over to drizzle tomorrow evening into the early overnight hours. But then once that system, that low pressure center moves east of us, we'll get that cold air to wrap back in around the system, and we'll switch whatever precipitation's remaining back over to all snow. So there might be a brief period of light drizzle. It really shouldn't have too much of an impact on anything. I saw another page say freezing drizzle earlier. Well, not really. If drizzle does fall, it'll be, at or just above freezing when that happens. So shouldn't have to worry about any ice accumulation if there is drizzle. But, like I said, it might kind of sprinkle on top of that snowpack and, kind of smush it down a little bit there and make it a little heavier and wetter than when it fell originally. And again, if that does happen, I would expect that to be tomorrow evening once that that rain snow line pushes north. Again, I've said throughout the stream, I have a feeling it'll be right around I-80. So Westchester, you might be snow the entire time. But, again, areas along and just south of I-80 all the way, further south, you will see that at least a short period of, light drizzle, maybe even some light rain, especially across central and southern Illinois where, it'll switch over or it'll warm up quicker and then you'll have that switch over happen quicker. Again, if I go through this go through the system with temperatures here, you can see by, this is about, about 2 to 3 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah, this is 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. You see temperatures in the upper 20s farther northwest to the low 30s here. So you can see this freezing line right here. It does start pushing north as that system, pushes into the area. That freezing line gets right up to I-80 here. This is about 10 to 11 p.m. tomorrow evening. You can see that freezing line is literally right along I-80 here, depicted by this model. And again, further south is where you will, or just along and just south of that freezing line is where you will probably have some light drizzle. Maybe some, wet snowflakes mixed with light drizzle. But as that system, passes directly overhead, we'll get that dry air to wrap in. With it, it'll cut off that good snow production and change things over to some light drizzle. So, we do expect that freezing line to get as far north as, like I said several times, I-80. But then once we get past midnight here, that cold air will start to wrap back in around that system, and that will be the end of that. So, as far as melting goes, it might be a little bit of melting and compaction tomorrow, late afternoon to the evening, especially across central Illinois for sure. But further north, it'll probably be a very marginal period of, of drizzle to, near freezing to just above freezing temperatures. And you can see the mid-30s hold off into Indiana here, where there won't be much snow accumulation at all. And whatever does fall may melt, especially across, central Indiana into, southern Illinois there, where we will get a brief period of snow in the morning, but that'll, come to an end as that rain-snow line shifts north, and that snow will slowly melt as temperatures rise above freezing. But further north, that won't be as much of an issue. Say Rockford area, you'll probably be far enough north where you stay solidly below freezing the entire event, so no threat of any sort of rain or drizzle for you. But again, I-80 along and near I-80, maybe just north or south of it, that freezing line will work its way up there tomorrow evening, about 24 hours from now, and you will see, some melting, compacting of the snow, and maybe even some rain or drizzle, like I said. But anyways, I have gone over an hour now, so I think I've said quite a bit. Again, if you have any last-minute questions, feel free to throw them in the chat here before I end, but if not, I think I'm going to wrap this up. Again, I thank everybody for watching. We're going to try to do these streams more often. We'll probably have some sort of stream tomorrow during the day. Usually what we've done in past winter storms is we will, if one of us has to drive or anything, which I do, I have to work tomorrow. So, on my way home, I might, just throw out my phone on the dashboard and stream live road conditions if it's interesting. And then, if folks have to go out and travel, you'll be able to see what it's like on certain highways or expressways or roads. So we'll probably do that tomorrow. And then additionally, we have that second system to worry about Monday afternoon into Monday night, which looks, less significant than this one for sure. But it looks like a solid 2 to 4 inch event, so a nice refresher after this system moves through. So again, a very wintry pattern here. It doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon either. It looks beyond that cold and potentially quite active. So exciting times for those of us that like winter weather. But again, if you don't, then this might not be a good month for you. But yes, I appreciate everybody's questions as well. And again, make sure to follow or subscribe to our YouTube channel here, and you'll get notified whenever we go live or post more videos in the future. But again, thanks everyone for watching. We will be posting more updates throughout the rest of the evening, so check our Facebook page and we'll have more content on YouTube for tomorrow.